Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. So it's been a whirlwind of the last couple of weeks, and I have not had a whole bunch of chances to stream live to you on some of these other channels. So I'm getting a chance to do that today, and actually we're going to take care of two birds with one stone. We're gonna take care of a fan request. So this is basically, sometimes people reach out to me on social media. I shouldn't say sometimes, all the time. People reach out to me on social media and they ask how to do things. Hi, Ross in Naples, Florida. Glad to see you here and glad to see so many of you popping in kind of unexpectedly last minute here. Kind of also playing around with different times of day to stream. So normally I do these around 1 p.m. Pacific time, but today we're doing it at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And maybe tomorrow it might be 10 a.m. Pacific time. So you never know. But glad to be back. David, Jan, Jamie, Matus, glad to see you guys all here as well over on YouTube. And I see some folks popping in on Facebook and Twitter and most likely LinkedIn and Behance as well. So I'm going to give you guys the backstory of what was, what this person wanted. And then we'll go into how to actually solve it's a Photoshop 101, kind of a beginner's thing of what they wanted and how to do it. I'm just trying to bring up one more window here. Let's see if I can get these comments going. And I see you over there, Bobby on Behance. Glad to have you here as well. Don't want to miss anybody. So just let me do one thing real quick and then we'll dive right in. I am not seeing it over here, but we're just going to have to go. Oh, there it is. There it is. Found it. All right. Sadiq, Dogan, Michael Fiscus, glad to see you. Long time no see. So we got people everywhere. We got people on Behance, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. So I'm kind of doing this multi-stream as well. All right. Let's get to the subject at hand. So the user request was... and I'll show it to you. Let's go to it on my computer. So here's the user request. It's right here in Twitter. And this is the actual request from Edgar. Hi, Terry. Quick question. Do you have a tutorial or an idea about how to make a transparent background in Photoshop? And it's like, that's literally Photoshop 101. And I've done it a million times. I do it all the time in Photoshop. But do I have a dedicated tutorial just for that one thing? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe I can go back in the years and find one. I just thought, you know what, rather than me trying to dig and find one thing that I may have done, 5 years ago, just re-record it. It'll take a second to do it. This way Edgar gets a custom tutorial just for Edgar. And the rest of you get to learn if you're, don't know how to make a transparent background in Photoshop. Maybe you'll get to learn it as well. All right, so, I needed a little bit more background. So I asked, well, what's the logo you created? Like he kept saying a circle on a rectangle, and he couldn't send me the exact logo. But what he sent me was an idea of what it looked like. And basically, this is not it. It looked like a coin. Basically, it was, imagine a medallion or a shape of a logo that's round, and he was on a white background. And basically, it said, well, now I want to put it on a different color. And I thought, okay, I'll just find a stock image of a coin. So I just searched coin Adobe stock, and first thing came up was, well, wasn't the first thing came up, but it was the first one that came up on a white background. And that was a penny. And so it doesn't matter what the coin, doesn't matter what the actual text is, doesn't matter what the colors are. It basically is, he was trying to do this round shape logo on transparency, and he was struggling with that. So first and foremost, if I were going to create a logo and I were going to do it in Photoshop, I'd probably do it on a layer anyway. So just going forward, Edgar, if you're going to do this, again, do it on layers. Don't draw or create your logo on the background, because that's just going to make it harder the next time you're going to want to put it on something else. So that would be the first piece of advice. But let's say you inherited the project. You didn't have a choice. This is the way it came to you. These were the cards you were dealt. And now, how do we handle it? So the way we'd handle it is we do a couple things. So first, we do want to get it onto its own layer. That's going to be the easiest thing going forward. And to get it onto its own layer, we're going to do that by selecting it and then duplicating it onto its own layer. So first and foremost, there are all kinds of selection tools in Photoshop. I would probably, back in the day, maybe go to my elliptical marquee and maybe try and find the corner or the center and hold down the Option key and the Shift key and kind of constrain my circle and kind of get the size just right and then move it around and kind of get it just right. I don't have to do any of that anymore. Deselect. That would have been the old way. Now, I would just rely on Adobe Sensei to figure out what the subject is. So I would go to the Select menu. I would come down to Select Subject, and that will figure out, oh, you mean the penny? No problem. I've got the penny selected now. And if we were to zoom in, you'll see that it did a very nice, tight selection around the subject. Now, if it didn't, maybe you're trying to select something where the contrast is really off, like it's a white logo on a white background. That probably may not work so well. So in that case, then I'll deselect, and I might have done the Quick Select tool. So the Quick Select tool will, if I just drag it around the subject, ultimately it would select all of it and I would get it all selected that way. Another way, if the background is nice and contrasty, like this one in this case, you could magic wand the background, or even with Quick Select, I can start selecting the white background and I could just tell Photoshop to either grow that selection or select similar. So if I say select similar, there's white in the logo, so that's not going to do it. Let's undo that. And instead, let's just simply grow the selection. So select and grow tells it to grow, get more of what I just did. And it went around it. And now we've got the background selected instead of the penny. So it just depends on which way you want to approach it. Now we could theoretically erase the background. Or we could lift the penny up onto its own background if we inverse that selection. So lots of ways to do this in Photoshop. It just depends on your subject. It just depends on what you're trying to select. So now, since I do have the background selected, if I try and delete the background, I'm probably going to get a fill dialog box for content-aware fill because it is a background. It's not a layer yet. So if I do want to just simply delete the background, I'm going to go to this background lock and click it to turn that into a layer. So now that it is a layer, I can just simply hit delete or the backspace key on a PC. The background is now gone. The penny is on a layer all by itself, and away we go. Or undo, put it back to the way it was, deselect, and another way to do it would be the way I said earlier, select subject and new layer via copy. So now that the penny is selected, layer, new layer via copy, Command J or PC Control J, and that will put the penny onto its own layer all by itself. You still have the original on its own background or the original background, but now you do have that transparency, which you'll always note is the checkerboard pattern by default. So the checkerboard pattern's letting me know, hey, now you got the penny on its own layer. You got the original layer. You can either throw it away, just turn it off, do whatever you want to do with it. But now you're able to put different colors behind it. So let's say I needed this because he originally did say he wanted to put it on a different color. So let's say I did want to put this on red. All right, well, I could make a new red layer or new layer, go find red, for example, and then fill that layer with red. So now the penny's on a red layer. Or I could do a color fill layer. There's, again, hundreds of ways to do this, but whatever way you want, it's to get your thing behind it. You can do it any way you want, and now you can substitute or put photos behind it or whatever you want because of the layer stacking order. So this is the penny layer, or we'll call it the logo layer. This is the new background layer, or color background. And we can keep changing the color to whatever we want now because it's separated from the background. Now, that's only half the battle. That's great if you're doing all of this in Photoshop. It's easy. Just keep changing the background, put photos behind it, do whatever you want, and your logo will be on whatever background Edgar you want it on. But what people typically want to do is they want that transparency to be maintained so they can use it in other places. Maybe I want to put it on the web. Maybe I want to put it on social media. Maybe I want to put it in another program where I need the transparency behind the penny to be transparent. So no matter what I put it on, it will just be the penny, or we'll keep calling it penny, but the logo, and not the white, the blue, the red, whatever background it is. So let's turn off that blue background for a minute, and let's just deal with the transparency. The common problem people run into is everyone's so used to saving a JPEG. And so you say, oh, I did it. I did what Terry said. I separated it from the background. I win. Yay. It's transparent now. All I got to do is save it out, and then I can use it. Let's go do that. Well, as a matter of fact, let's even take it a step further. Let's throw away all the stuff we don't need. We just need the transparency. Done. So now we go save it. We do a save as and save it onto our computer, and we save it as a JPEG because, JPEGs work everywhere. So we save it as a JPEG, and we'll call it logo.jpg onto the desktop, and there it is. And we give it a nice high quality because it's a logo. We click OK, and we think we're golden because we separated the background, we made it transparent. Then you go find that new logo you just saved out onto the desktop, which my desktop's down here. There's my desktop. And there's the logo, and you look at it, it's got a white background again. God darn it. You say something else maybe. But you're like ticked because you went through the trouble to save it out with no background, with transparency, but you ended up with a background anyway, just by saving it. You didn't tell it to put a white background behind it. Why did it do that? Simply because the JPEG format doesn't support transparency. So it had no choice when you hit save as JPEG, but okay, whatever's transparent, I'm just going to make it white. Absolutely, Jason, you got it. All right, so Jason over on YouTube has got the right answer. So let's not do that. Let's go back to this where we got this beautiful transparency, and we're just going to go up to File and either Save As or Export As. And I usually do the export. I rarely do the save, but let's do a save. And let's save it as a .png file instead. So when we save it as a .png, penny, .png to the desktop, save, it will, we just click OK, and it will do it. So we don't have to do anything else. If we go look at it, it is, you notice it's not white, it's literally transparent. We're even seeing through it in the preview app. We're kind of seeing that ghosted view. But if I were to put this in any other program right now, it would just be the penny. There would be no background. There would be no white background, no red background, no blue background. There would be no background whatsoever. It'd be a perfectly cut out penny that's easy to put on anything because it would show the color behind it. Okay. I said I don't save it that way. How do I save it then? I normally, we'll go back to Photoshop. I keep getting out of Photoshop. We'll go back to Photoshop. I don't do the save as because I want to control more than just the format. I want to control the size because maybe it's a giant penny and we don't need it that big. Maybe it's 4,000. I don't even know the resolution of this one. Let's go check it. I got this from stock, so let's go see it. Yeah, it's 2078 by 2200 at 300 pixels per inch. It's 13 megabytes. That's huge. That's a big, giant penny. And if I just want to put it on the web somewhere, I don't need one that big. So I don't mess around here. I don't want to change the size of the original. I just want to change the size of the export. So I would go to my file menu, and I'm old-fashioned from the standpoint of how I export. I still prefer Save for Web. Now, Export As is great. It works great. It's just I prefer Save for Web. Because Save for Web still has one thing that Export As doesn't. Save for Web lets me control the size. And that's what I like. Export As will export out in any format you want, maintain the transparency. It'll even export multiple copies, but it will do it based on the size of the original. So I'd have to size it down first, and I don't want to do that. So instead, I like doing save for web. And by the way, they might have updated it, so that's not the case anymore. I just want to check something real quick. Yeah, okay, so here, you can't, I was starting to remember, they did update this. You can change the size here, so scratch that last part about the size. I still prefer save for web though. So let's go in, export, save for web, and here's why. Number one, I'm seeing the white background again. No, that's because it's in JPEG. If I put it back in ping 24, give me a nice high quality ping. Woo, there's a checkerboard, I'm getting transparency. But look at how big it is. We can't even see the whole thing because it's so big. Now I get to control the size here. So I can say, oh, make it, let's say 500 pixels instead of whatever godly amount of pixels it was. And I get to see what the resulting size will be. That's another reason I like save for web. So it's showing me that's going to be 335K. If I want it to be less, or if I want it to be smaller in size, I could either lower the image size or lower the ping quality. And there's a nice checkbox right there for the transparency to be maintained or not. So you get all these controls in the save for web, and I'm just used to it. I just prefer it. Export as works great. There's no reason not to use export as. And I would probably say if you're going to learn one, I'd probably learn export as, because this is the newer one. It's clearly the direction the Photoshop team is going in. But save for web is just my go-to. It works great. Russell Brady in the house. What's going on, Russell? How are you holding up, man? How you doing, Russell, over on Facebook? All right, so anyway, let's go ahead and do a quick save here. And let's go ahead and save this out. We're going to call it Penny Save for Web, SFW, PNG. And we'll save it out to the desktop again. And it's going to be the same exact penny, same exact thing, but it won't be as big in size. So if I go look at the sizes now, we should be able to see a huge difference, and we do. So the original one, just doing a save as, saving all that resolution we didn't need for the web, is 5.5 megabytes. Huge. We don't need all that. The one I just made, 344K. For the web. Now, when would I want that 5.5 megabytes? When would I want it to be huge? When I'm submitting it to be printed. If I'm like making a t-shirt, some hats, some designs where they want it exported and uploaded as a ping, then I do want the big one. I do want the high res that will look good on my t-shirts, that will look good on the jackets, that will look good on the hats that I'm about to make. So there is a point to have a big ping file, PNG file. It's when you're going to do a print. But if you're exporting this out to be on the web or put it somewhere else, that's when you would use the save for web. So save as, ping file, transparent, upload it to your printing service. Great transparent logo, background, done. For the web, for other programs, for other things you're going to place it in, slideshows, PowerPoint, Keynote, all the things you need to be transparent on, because you never know what the slide's going to be that you're going to put it on. Save for web, ping file, nice and small. Away you go. So you got both choices, any way you want to do it. Okay. Well, Lori, we're glad you're here. So Lori says, glad to be here. Lori, we're glad you're here. All right. So going back to my Twitter feed, Edgar, that's how I do it. And that's a tutorial. You get a custom tutorial just for you because you were nice about asking a question right on Twitter. So that's how you get topics, by the way. I can't always know what you want to learn. So if you want to learn something in particular, just go ahead and reach out, suggest the topic. And if it's something cool that I think many will benefit from, I'll be glad to do that. Now, what I'm probably not going to do a stream on is if you ask some really crazy, long drawn out thing that only applies to your workflow, then I probably won't, because it won't appeal to enough people. It probably won't be worth a tutorial. But for generic things, they don't have to be easy, but they do have to be, they do have to have wide enough appeal for most people to want to learn those things. All right, so with that said, thanks again, Edgar, for the topic suggestion. I'm always looking at medallion or coin, and hopefully that helps you out. Things either. Just making sure I didn't miss any questions here. Bobby Orlando, great. Love your work. Cheers.